The battlefield was silent now. Smoke rose from the burning ground. The sky was red with fire. Ships had fallen from the sky like dead birds. Broken weapons lay everywhere. The war between humans and the alien race, the Enzari, had ended, but the pain still lived in the air. Karel, a proud Enzari warrior, lay in the dirt. Her armor was cracked. Her legs would not move. She was bleeding. The world around her spun. Her hands shook as she reached for her blade, but it was gone. She looked up through the smoke. She saw him, a human soldier, tall, strong, dirty from the fight. His armor was scratched. A rifle hung from his shoulder. He walked slowly, step by step, like a hunter who had found his prey. Karel's heart beat fast. This was it. The end. She had killed humans in battle. She had shouted war songs. She had sworn never to be captured. If they caught her, they would torture her. If they took her alive, they would chain her. Her people told her, humans are cruel. They show no mercy. She pressed her head to the ground and closed her eyes. I die with honor, she whispered. In her language, the footsteps stopped. She waited for the shot. 1 second, 2 seconds, then something cold touched her lips. Her eyes opened in shock. The human was kneeling beside her. He held a metal bottle. Water poured into her mouth. She coughed. Tried to push it away, but her hands were too weak. He didn't speak. He just looked at her. His eyes were not full of hate. They were full of something strange. Pity. Kindness. She blinked. He reached into his pack and pulled out a jacket. He wrapped it around her shoulders, gentle like someone covering a child. I'm not going to hurt you, he said softly. She didn't understand the words, but the tone. It was calm, not cruel, not angry. He looked at her wound. You're lucky, he said. It didn't hit the bone. Karel wanted to scream, too. Shout that she was a warrior, that she would rather die than be pitied by a human. But her throat only made a soft sound. Her voice was broken. She stared at him, confused. Why? Why didn't he kill her? Why didn't he take revenge? He reached into his pocket and placed something in her hand. A small square. It smelled sweet. Food. She stared at it. Her hand trembled. He stood up and looked around. The sky behind him glowed with smoke and fire. He tapped a device on his shoulder and said something in his human language. She didn't understand, but he didn't sound like a killer. Soon, 2 more humans came running. One had a medical kit, the other held a stretcher. Karel panicked. No, I don't want to be taken. She tried to crawl away, but her legs failed her. Pain shot through her body. The human soldier knelt again and gently touched her shoulder. Easy. He said, you're safe now. Safe. The word echoed in her mind. She wanted to scream. She wanted to cry. She didn't know which feeling was stronger. They lifted her onto the stretcher. As the medics carried her, she looked up at the sky. Stars blinked above the clouds. She thought of her family, her home, her commander. They would call her a coward, captured by the enemy, shameful, but deep inside her, a question grew stronger. What kind of human shows mercy to an enemy like me? She turned her head, trying to see the soldier one last time. He was walking beside her, watching the path. Alert for danger, he had saved her. He had done something she could not understand. He had done the one thing no one expected. He had spared her life. The human base was quiet when Karel opened her eyes. She lay on a soft bed, covered with white sheets. Bright lights hung above her. Machines beeped around her. The air smelled like metal and medicine. Her arms were tied gently with soft straps. Not chains, not rough ropes. But still, she was a prisoner. She moved her head slowly. Her leg was Wrapped in bandages, her armor was gone. Her weapons gone too. She felt naked. Weak, her breath grew fast. Trapped, she had failed her people, and now she was in the hands of the enemy. Suddenly, the door opened with a hiss. A woman walked in human, wearing a medical coat. She had soft eyes and a kind smile. Carell tensed. "Easy," the woman said. "You're safe." That word again, safe. Carell stared at her. Without blinking, the woman checked the machines and adjusted the drip beside the bed. Then she looked at Carell and said something in a slow, clear voice. Carell didn't understand the words. But the woman wasn't angry. She wasn't cruel. She even nodded kindly, as if Carell was more than just a prisoner. Then the door opened again. It was him, the soldier from the battlefield, the one who gave her water. Carell's eyes narrowed. He walked in slowly, no weapon in hand. His name tag read, Jack Rayner. Jack looked at her with quiet eyes. "I see you're awake," he said gently. Carell didn't reply. She just stared at him, tense like a coiled snake. He pulled a chair and sat near her bed. "I know you don't trust me. You think I'll hurt you," he said, watching her carefully. "But I won't." She frowned. His voice was calm. Again, no anger, no hate. "You're my prisoner, yes, but not my pet," he said. "You're not a trophy. You're not an animal." Carell's mouth opened, but no words came out. Jack stood up and walked to the corner. He picked up a small tray. He returned and placed it on the table beside her. There was warm food, alien-friendly, NutriPaste water, soft bread. Carell looked at it. Confused, he had brought her food. "You need strength to heal," Jack said. "I'll remove the straps, but only if you don't try to hurt anyone." Carell looked down at her weak arms. She couldn't fight even if she wanted to. She gave a small nod. Jack slowly undid the straps. She didn't attack. She simply reached slowly for the bread. She took a small bite. It was warm, soft, real. Her eyes filled with water. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. Jack watched her but didn't speak. After a moment, she asked in a soft voice, "Why?" He looked at her. "Why what?" She struggled to form words in the human tongue. "Why? You helped me?" He smiled a little. "Because you didn't kill me when I got close. You didn't spit at me. You just closed your eyes and waited." Carell stayed silent. He continued, "Where I come from, we don't kill someone who can't fight back. Not all of us, at least." She looked at him. "But I am enemy." Jack shrugged. "So were a lot of people in history. But enemies can become something else. Sometimes." Carell shook her head. "You confuse me." Jack smiled again. "You confuse me too." He stood up. "I'll let the doctor know you're recovering. If you need anything, knock." She didn't answer as he left. She watched him carefully. The door closed behind him with a soft hiss. Carell looked down at her hands. She was supposed to be strong. She was supposed to die with honor. But this human had broken something. Inside her, he hadn't taken her pride. He hadn't mocked her. He hadn't tortured her. Instead, he had treated her like a person. And that was far more dangerous. For the first time in her life, Carell began to wonder, what if everything she believed about humans was wrong? Carell sat by the window in her recovery room. The sky outside was blue. Birds flew freely. Human children laughed somewhere in the distance. It was so peaceful, too peaceful for someone like her. She wasn't used to this. Kindness, silence, no. Orders, no battles, no screams. The war was over. Yet Carell felt more confused now than during any fight. Each day, a nurse brought her food, always warm, always fresh. She smiled when she entered the room, never mocked. never stared at her strange skin or eyes. Even when Corell didn't answer, the nurse always said goodbye. One morning, little human girl peeked into Corell's room. She held a small flower in her hand. Corell looked up in surprise. The child walked in carefully, placed the flower on the table, and whispered, "You look lonely." Corell didn't know what to say. The child waved, smiled, and skipped away. Corell picked up the flower and stared at it. A gift from a child of her enemy. Back on her homeworld, human children were called cubs of murderers. But this one had given her a flower. Corell didn't understand it. Later that day, Jack returned. He walked in with a relaxed smile and a small bag. Corell raised her head. Her wounds had healed, though her body still ached. Jack pulled up a chair beside her bed. "I brought something," he said, opening the bag. "Books. In your language?" Corell blinked in surprise. "Books," he nodded. "You must be bored." He handed her a datapad. The screen lit up with Anzari script. "Poems," he said. "Your culture has some good ones." Corell stared at him. "Why you do this?" Jack leaned back in the chair. "Because I see you, not as a threat anymore, but as someone stuck in the middle. Same as me." She didn't know what to say. "You're not the first enemy I've met," he added, "and most of them were just like you. Fighting because they were told to, not because they wanted to." Corell looked away. Her eyes burned. He was right. She had joined the war to make her family proud, to protect her home. But now, she wondered, who had she really been fighting? That night, she couldn't sleep. She walked limping slightly through the medical wing. No one stopped her. The guards nodded but didn't raise their guns. They trusted her. She walked into a hallway where pictures hung on the walls, photos, human soldiers smiling, some hugging their families, others standing with medals. She stopped. At one photo, it showed Jack standing beside a burned-out building. In his arms was a wounded Anzari child. He was carrying her to safety. Corell felt her breath catch. This wasn't the first time he had shown mercy. Why had she never seen this before? Why had no one told her humans could care? The next day, Jack visited again. Corell was waiting. For him, she held the datapad in her lap. "You read poem." Jack smiled. "Some? I like this one." He quoted in broken Anzari, "The blade that does not cut still holds weight." Corell's eyes widened. That was one of the oldest poems in her culture. She nodded slowly. "You speak it better than I thought." He chuckled. "I try." They sat in silence for a while. Then Corell whispered, "You confuse me." Jack raised an eyebrow. "So, I expected pain. Chains, maybe. Death." She looked into his eyes. "But you gave me books. Food. You let a child bring me flowers." Jack's smile faded. He leaned forward. "Do you want to know a secret?" he asked. Corell nodded. "I was ready to kill you that day," he said. "But when I looked into your eyes, I saw something else. Not a monster, not a killer. Just someone tired of fighting." Corell swallowed hard. Jack stood up and walked toward the door. "You don't have to understand kindness right away," he said. "You just have to know it's real." Then he left. Corell sat in silence. She held the flower the child had given her. It had started to wilt, but it still smelled sweet. She touched the petals gently. Kindness was not weakness. Kindness was not surrender. Maybe kindness was strength, too. For the first time since the war began, Corell wasn't afraid. She was curious, and that was the most dangerous feeling of all. It was late at night when Corell heard the sound. A whisper in the wind, then a soft click. Then silence again. She stood from her bed and walked to the small window. The human base was quiet. One guard stood near the gate. yawning. Then a shadow moved behind the fence. Karola's eyes widened. She knew that shape, that stance, that armor. N single quotes ZARI, scouts. Her people, they had come for her. 10 minutes later, her door hissed open. A sharp hand grabbed her wrist and pulled her back. She was face to face with a dark-skinned Nazari male. His eyes glowing silver, quiet. "Karel," he whispered, "we're getting you out of here." Her heart pounded. He was one of her unit leader, Sarek, a ghost from her past. 2 more warriors slipped in behind him, weapons drawn. Sarek looked around. "Have they harmed you? Broken you?" Karel shook her head. "No, they treated me well." Sarek frowned. "They fed you?" She hesitated. "Yes," she admitted. "They gave me food, water, books," he growled. "Poison. Tricks to make you soft." Karel stepped back. "No," she said. "It wasn't like that." One of the warriors grabbed her arm. "We move now." They pulled her into the hallway, fast and quiet, down the dark corridors, through a side exit. Past the sleeping guards, they escaped the base and disappeared into the trees beyond the fence. By morning, Karel sat in a hidden cave far from the human camp. A fire flickered in the corner. Around her stood 6 Inzari warriors, some she knew, some she didn't. Sarek spoke, voice hard. "The High Council thought you were dead. When we learned you were captured, we feared the worst." Karel stayed silent. "You survived," Sarek said, "but you've been touched by humans." "We see it." Another warrior spat. "She wears human clothing, drinks human food. She should be judged," someone muttered. Karel stood up. "I fought for our people," she said. "I bled for our world. And when I was left to die, humans picked me up and gave me life again." Silence. Sarek stepped forward. "Did they trick you into this speech too?" Karel's voice cracked. "No, I saw something different. Not all humans are killers." Murmurs spread around the cave. Sarek's expression turned cold. "Then you are not the same, Karel." "I trained." He turned to the others. "Tomorrow night, we strike their camp. One last blow to remind them who we are. We have a bomb hidden in an old cargo pod. They think it's junk, but it will rip through their base like thunder." Karel left stomach. "Dropped, you're going to kill them all." "Yes," Sarek said proudly. "Every last one, and you will help us walk in unseen." She froze. "No," she said slowly. "I can't." "You will," he growled. "Or we'll leave your body in this cave." Karel stepped back. She remembered the nurse's smile, the flower from the little girl, Jack's quiet voice saying, "You just have to know it's real." That night, while the others slept, Karel stood at the edge of the forest. She looked toward the human base. Lights blinking in the distance. She didn't know what humans would do to her if she went back, but she knew what her own people would do if she stayed. They didn't want peace. They wanted blood. She turned and ran. Jack stood at the guard post when the alarm rang. A soldier shouted, "Someone's approaching from the tree line." They raised weapons, ready to fire. But Jack shouted, "Wait!" He saw the figure limping, weak arms raised. Ca. Single quotes RELelt. She collapsed at the gate, gasping. "I need to speak to Jack," she said in a broken voice. They rushed her inside in the command tent. Karel sat across from Jack. Her hair was messy, her body dirty from the forest. Jack looked at her, unsure. "Why did you come back?" Karel looked him in the eyes. "There is a bomb hidden in your cargo. My people plan to destroy this place tomorrow." Everyone in the room went silent. "You came back to warn us?" Jack asked slowly. She nodded. "I owe you the truth." You gave me water when I was dying. Don't want to see you die now? Jack stared at her for a long time. You know what this means? He asked. Yes, she said. They'll call you a traitor. She looked down. They already do. He stood up. You may have just saved 100 lives. Carell closed her eyes, but all she could see was her people calling her soft, calling her broken. But maybe mercy wasn't weakness after all. Carell sat alone in the dim hallway outside the human command tent. Her body was tired. Her mind even more so. She had just betrayed her own people. Or had she saved lives? She didn't know anymore. A young soldier walked by and gave her a confused look. Others avoided eye contact. She could feel their eyes behind her back, whispering, wondering. She was no longer a prisoner, but not quite a guest either. Not a Unzari, not a human. She was something in between. Inside the command tent, voices argued. We can't trust her, one officer said. She's the enemy. She saved your camp. Jack snapped. She didn't have to come back. She could be distracting us while her people prepare another attack. Jack shook his head. She gave us the exact location of the bomb. We found it where she said. The general finally spoke. Fine, he said. We don't fully trust her, but we take the warning seriously. Move the cargo. Prepare the defense line. No mistakes. Jack stood outside the tent minutes later and saw her. Carell looked up. They don't believe me, do they? Jack sighed. Some don't. Some want to. But they're scared. Carell nodded slowly. I understand. I would be too. Jack stepped closer. But I believe you. She blinked. I believe you care, he said. And that's enough for me. She looked at the ground. My people are going to attack anyway. You'll be outnumbered. Jack smiled faintly. That's not new. Carell looked at him. Let me help. Jack raised an eyebrow. You want to fight them? She stood up. No, but I can help you stop them without more death. He studied her for a moment, then nodded. Okay, tell me what you have in mind. That night, Carell led a small group of humans through a dry riverbed behind the forest. She pointed to an old mining tunnel. They're hiding in there, she whispered. It leads straight to their camp. They won't expect anyone from behind. Jack checked his weapon. You sure? She nodded. I trained in that tunnel. I know every crack. The group moved silently inside the tunnel. The air was thick with dust and tension. Jack followed Carell closely. She moved with the quiet steps of a hunter. Even with her injured leg, they reached the other end and saw a flickering fire. Nzari. Warriors sat around it, sharpening blades and checking explosives. Carell's eyes found Sarek. He looked the same. Cold, proud, dangerous. She took a breath and stepped out into the light. Sarek, she called out. He jumped to his feet. Carelleth, he hissed. You dare return. The others rose quickly, weapons ready. Carell held up her hands. Stop. Listen to me. The humans moved the cargo. The bomb plan failed, Sarek growled. You warned them. Yes, she said. They fed you lies, and now you serve them like a dog. No, she said firmly. They showed me something you never did. Sarek's eyes narrowed. And what's that? Mercy. A pause. Then Sarek lunged, but Jack fired a warning shot into the ground. The humans stepped out from the shadows. Weapons aimed. Enough, Jack shouted. Nobody has to die here. The Anzari froze. For a moment, it was deathly silent. Carell stepped between both sides. We can keep fighting, she said, voice shaking. We can spill more blood, or we can end it here. Sarek stared at her, rage in his eyes. "You're dead to us," he hissed. "A traitor." Corell met his eyes. "Maybe, but I saved lives tonight." She turned her back on him and walked to Jack's side. Later, back at the human base, Corell sat on a bench beside Jack. The stars were out. He handed her a mug of warm tea. "You took a risk," he said. She smiled faintly. "So did you." He looked at her. "So, what happens now?" She looked up at the stars. "I don't know. My people won't take me back." "Yours still don't trust me." Shek sipped his tea. "That makes two of us then. I never really fit in either." She laughed softly. It was the first time he heard her laugh. A real one? Maybe that was the start of something new. Not war, not fear, but something else, something unexpected. The next morning. Tension filled the human base. Soldiers double-checked. Weapons defense towers were online. Medical tents had extra beds ready. Everyone knew something was coming, even with the bomb disabled. The attack would still happen. The Enzari would not forgive betrayal. Corell stood at the edge of the camp, watching the tree line. She wore basic armor, now human armor, slightly modified to fit her body. It felt strange. Not heavy like Enzari gear. Lighter, flexible like the future ahead of her. Unknown, uncertain, Jack walked up beside her. "You sure about this?" he asked quietly. She nodded. "If they come, I face them. I won't run again." Jack gave her a small nod. "You don't have to prove anything." Corell looked at him. "Yes, I do. But not to them." She looked at her hands. "To myself." Just before noon, the alarm rang. Movement in the forest. A soldier shouted, "Multiple targets." Corell climbed to the top of the tower with Jack. Through binoculars, they saw them Zari warriors advancing fast. Not in full attack formation, smaller groups, but fast-moving. "They're testing us," Jack said, looking for a weak spot. Corell frowned. "They're not here for a full fight, just to punish, to take back honor." She pointed. "They're that group. Sarek leads it. He'll strike the medical wing. Easy target, symbolic victory." Jack nodded. "You know the land. Take a squad. Stop him." She hesitated. "If I fight them, I'll be truly lost to them." Jack looked her in the eyes. "You already chose your path. Now walk it." Corell moved fast with 5 soldiers behind her. She led them around the far side of the base, through narrow paths she once studied on stolen maps. They reached the outer wall of the medical tents, just as Sarek's group appeared. Corell stood tall. "Stop," she shouted. Serik froze when he saw her. His voice was full of poison. "You stand with them?" "They're not my enemy anymore," Corell said. Sarek drew his blade. Then you are." Corell stepped forward, unarmed. "I don't want to fight you," she said. "But I will." He roared and charged. Corell moved to the side and grabbed a fallen staff. Their weapons clashed in the dirt. Beside the tents, Sarek's blade scratched her shoulder. She struck back with the staff. Knocking him down, the human soldiers aimed their weapons, but didn't fire. Corell stood over Sir. He growled, blood on his lips. "Finish it," he spat. "Kill me, just like a human would." Corell raised the staff and threw it aside. "No," she said softly. "I'm not a killer anymore." She turned to the others. "Go home," she said. "There is no victory here. It's just more pain." One by one, the other Nenzari dropped their weapons. They helped Sarek to his feet. He said nothing as they left the field and disappeared into the trees. Later, Corell sat alone under a broken tree, her shoulder bandaged. Jack walked over with a smile. "You stopped them." "I didn't win," Corell said. I just refused to lose. That's harder than most people think, Jack replied. She looked at him. I used to think humans were monsters, she said. Now I wonder. Maybe I was the monster. All that hate, all that fear. Jack sat beside her. We all carry darkness, he said, but it's what we do with it that matters. They sat in silence for a while. Then Jack reached into his pocket and pulled something out, a small flower, bright, purple, almost glowing. The girl who gave you the first one. She left this on your pillow this morning, he said. Said it was for bravery. Carell took the flower gently. For the first time, she didn't feel like a traitor. She felt seen, respected, human or Anzariot. Didn't matter now. She had made her choice. And in that moment, she realized something. She hadn't fought for humans. She had fought for peace. For the chance to choose something better. The sky above the base was clear the next morning. No smoke, no alarms, no sound of war. Only soft winds moving across the grass and birds flying in peace. For the first time in many cycles, Carol felt something she had almost forgotten: calm. She stood on a small hill outside the human camp, watching the horizon. Her shoulders still hurt, and her body was covered in old wounds and fresh bandages. But she stood tall. Jack approached her from behind, holding 2 cups of warm tea. You always stand here in the morning, he said, handing her one. Carell accepted the cup. Because this hill reminds me of home, she said. My real home. Before the war, Jack nodded. What was it like? She smiled slightly. Quiet. Green hills, red sun. Tall crystals that hummed in the wind. I used to run as a child. I never thought I would miss it. Jack looked out across the open land. You think your people will forgive you one day? Carell shook her head. I don't think so. Not for a long time. Maybe never. Jack stayed silent. She added, but maybe one day a child will read about me and not see me as a traitor. Maybe they'll see me as someone who chose peace over pride. He smiled. Sounds like a good story. She looked at him. And you? What will you do now? Jack took a sip of his tea. There's talk about me joining a diplomatic team. Helping humans and Anzari talk, build something better. She raised an eyebrow. They want you to become a peacekeeper. Jack chuckled. Apparently, I'm good at not shooting people. Carol laughed softly. Then maybe I should join you. Jack looked at her, half joking. They might not accept that. She turned to face him. Then, they're not ready for peace. Later that day, a small ceremony was held in the camp square. Soldiers gathered, commanders stood tall, and in front of everyone Carell was called forward. The general, usually a cold man, looked at her with respect. Many of you fought in this war, he said, and many bled. But today, we honor someone who chose a different path, one that saved lives. Carell stepped onto the platform, nervous but proud. She warned us when she could have stayed silent. She stood between her people and ours. She chose what was right, not what was easy. The general handed her a small medal, a symbol of peace. She held it in both hands, silent as the soldiers clapped. Some still looked at her with suspicion, but others nodded. Some even smiled. One young soldier stepped forward. Sel saluted her. Carell returned the gesture, not like a soldier, but like someone starting a new chapter. That night, Carell sat alone in her room. The medal beside her on the table, she picked up the flower from the little girl that had dried now, but still held its shape. So much had changed. She had been ready to die. Instead, she had found something far more. Rara, second chance. The door knocked gently. Jack entered. You all right? He asked. She nodded, just thinking. He leaned against the wall. We're shipping out in the morning. New assignment. Maybe even a peace station near the border. She looked up. Will they let me go with you? He smiled. I already asked. They said yes. Carell stood and walked over to the window, far off. She could see the forest where her people had once hidden. She didn't know if she'd ever be welcome there again, but maybe one day she would return not with weapons, but with words. Maybe a child from her world would hear her story and ask, "Is it true? Did you really fight for humans?" And she would smile and say, "No, I fought for something bigger." Jack walked over and stood beside her. Together, they looked at the stars. Enemies no longer, not soldier and prisoner, not human and alien, but simply two souls who chose mercy when the world expected war. And in that moment, everything changed forever.